governance. So there are basically pension governance is relevant for all pension plans of all sizes. It relates to the oversight of pension plan activities. It includes multiple aspects such as legislative and regulatory compliance, plan design, investment policy, and performance measurement. There's an organization called the Canadian Association of Pension Supervisory Authorities, CAPSA. It's a very long word, and these are basically all the regulators. They get together and they produce. So it's the superintendents of all the jurisdictions, and tax is involved, and CRA is involved as well, and they produce policies. And these are quite helpful policies. So, and on the governance side, they've got very creative with the names: Guideline 4, Guideline 6, and Guideline 7. And these guidelines are not law. I would especially look at Guideline number 4. So you can Google CAPSA, and they have a checklist that goes with the with this policy. So when I get retained by a new client, I always go through the checklist with them first, just to get a sense of where they are. And sometimes people are great, other times people are like, they don't have anything. And so at least it gives us a baseline of what the regulators would want you to have as a minimum. Interesting but unknown fact, currently CAPSA has established a new committee that is reviewing these and trying to update and provide more detail. Because right now they're a little pithy, number 4. Number 6 and 7, a little bit more helpful, but number 4, not enough granular detail. The regulators now are trying to get their goal is to get them out by early spring. So their plan is spring 2015. Those of you who have deal with regulatory experience, look at maybe spring 2016, but know that they are coming down the pipe. This is why I don't even ask anymore if there are any regulators in the room. I figure I'll just defend first, apologize later. It's a good strategy. It's carried me well through my life so far. There are 11 principles of governance that CAPSA has lined out. I'm not going to go through each of them. I'll talk about, you've seen them sprinkled through some discussion I've had so far, and I'll talk about them throughout the remaining slides as well. One thing I do want to talk about is the funding policy. It's not a legal requirement, but it is in one of the CAPSA's policies. They have how to develop a funding policy. They actually set out the template for you. Very useful. It helps increase the predictability in funding, it increases transparency, and helps strengthen governance. All very important things. Very easy to do. You already have your terribly named SIP and P. You can take a lot of the similar language in there, but just it's a document that the pension committee or board can get together and discuss each year and make sure that everyone is generally on the same page in terms of consistency and thought process. The funding policy, it would be an employer, in funding is the employer duty, but the administrator would be the delivery of those services. So there is definitely an overlap, and usually if you're the employer, you're covering off both hats. So it would be something that I deal with on the agenda of the employer side of the agenda, but there's also the use of your, it's a very good question, the administrative hat, because you're trying to make sure that it is transparent and consistent in delivery of those services done properly. So your policy is twofold. It's how we want to invest and how we're going to disclose and deal with those investments and who is going to know what when. That's correct. So that's a good way to look at the intermingling. The employer, just to keep it very basic, really decides, the funding formula of the plan, so the amendment. But the actual dealing with the information, and once the funding formula has been established, dealing with the actuary as the administrator role on the DC side, dealing with the insurance company in terms of setting up the annuity policy and helping establish the options. Those are all administrator roles. I'm going to very briefly look at